Brother Delbert Blair told you that the Star Wars thing, because real knowledge is multidimensional. He told you that the Star Wars thing was something that also happened in space. But it also, with mythology, is multidimensional. And even in this book, George Lucas said when he went to do it, he went and got Robert Joseph Campbell's Hero of 1,000 Faces. And this is the basis of the Star Wars book, which is the mythology book, Joseph Campbell's Hero, the Hero with 1,000 Faces. See what I'm saying? And as a matter of fact, when Joseph Campbell did one of his PBS studies, and when he studied mythology, he went out to George Lucas' forum to discuss the whole Star Wars thing. So we got to get into that deep, and that's the main focus on this tragedy. And we'll try to treat this with some care. That's one of the main things. But let's get to a few other things at this particular time. Now remember, there's a prophecy that Marcus Garvey said on his deathbed in when did he die? Anybody know? 1941 or something like that? Or 1945? I know it was in the 40s. Did he die in the 40s, I think? Anyway, Marcus Garvey said on his deathbed a prophecy that I will return. And that was very spiritual. So we know that particular information. Just keep that in mind. And what it means is not necessarily mean that I will return in the physical, but we understand when the ancestors die, it's an all force. Now, I explained to you, with the white boys talking about this big cloud with the Hale-Bopp thing. I want to preface this, because you got to understand the force. And they said that this thing was big as the earth. Well, what happened is, the white people were killing so many black people until the reincarnation cycle is now broken. Because it's now run out. So what happened is, these souls are going midway point. They're going to a certain region in the hemisphere, and they're staying there waiting on us. So in each soul that dies, this cloud deflated, just like water evaporating. So when they looked up, they said it was a hierarchy or whatever, but this thing following Hale-Bopp and all, and basically that was those particular melanated souls that's waiting, you understand, as energy for us to fight with. But also, not only is it energy, the energy is inside of you. You see, when the ancestors or when the souls die, they also become a part of your spirit. Because what we're talking about here, we're talking about energy. That's all we are inside of the physical body. Right? So therefore, once the energy dissipates from the physical body, it can permeate, because this is only an illusion that we're seeing. So therefore, the same energy that used to be your brother or sister that died can also be a part of you. You see? That's called a force. That's what the whole George Lucas thing is about. The force is all around us. So when they saw this whole thing behind Hale-Bopp, it was a bunch of souls up there. And even on our Bell show, when they had that white boy from Courtney Brown from Emory University, and he said it was a bunch of a hierarchy. It was like a cosmic consciousness when they was doing it. He does this remote viewing. Now, we didn't understand at the time, but in 1994, there was a group of people from Emory that was spying on the black community. You remember you got that before? The group of people from Emory, and lo and behold, we knew since 1994 that there was a group of people from Emory that came in and literally vexed the black community in Atlanta. We had a tight-knit group in Atlanta around 1994. And after 1994, those groups, they went their own different ways. And what happened is now we understood, because the spirit always come around. This cracker, Courtney Brown, came on the actual Art Bell show and talked about how they are the main remote viewers for the government. It's right there at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. And we understood that those were the ones that were spying on us, because we had already got the channel that there was a group of witches from Emory University that was doing spells on us and spying on us. And this cracker came on our Bell show, and I'm actually listening to the same cracker that they did all kinds of things. They hit Florence Jackson. Florence Jackson got a lot of problems. Remember Florence Jackson got a lot of problems? That's because of this Courtney Brown cat that come on our Bell show. I think in '94, maybe Delbert Blair might have felt some of this particular energy, as far as a certain energy shift change from like 93 to 94 in Atlanta. And that's based on this Courtney Brown group. You see what I'm saying? These remote viewers. And basically, they came in, all the black conscious groups, Black Media, Florence Jackson, and all that in Atlanta, they fired on us, and they also did rituals. See, what they don't tell you is that they do different rituals, but the main people was Courtney Brown and them, and so the white boys are doing this remote viewing type thing. But anyway, what it is with this whole thing that's over the earth, that they say is like 3 times bigger than the earth, that's actual mass. Souls of carbonated souls, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, which is carbon, which is the basis of melanin. You see what I'm saying? Which is the basis of melanin at that particular time. Now, this is one thing we need to stop doing. Black people are constantly looking for the future. So therefore, we don't notice what's around us. The future is right now. There is no such thing as space and time. The future is right now. What we do is we look for the future. Now, I was up in Pennsylvania, 3 Mile Island, Pennsylvania. What's the name of this place? Harrisburg. And real spiritual group up there. But I was talking and they was already taking this particular knowledge and thinking how they can apply it to your children. And that's how you get fucked up. You're always thinking about your children. First of all, your child is nothing but a product of you. The only reason why a lot of you are open today is because you had some type of product of growing up where somebody made you open to not just the status quo. So therefore, a child ain't gonna do a damn thing if the doggone grown up don't get it. You understand what I'm saying? The information was not given to the child. They're already advanced enough to understand a certain thing. It's given to you. So what happened in all those 60s and all in the 70s is we say, oh, well, our children will get it in the future. And as a result, you see what the children are now. Deaf, dumb, and blind. So we are stuck into this future thing and we're not noticing what's around us. Go back and get the Star Wars trilogy and understand what Yoda was telling Luke Skywalker. He said, all my life I watched you, and you're always looking off into the future, but not realizing what is around you. That's the key right now. The future is now. So what the European is doing, at this particular time, because the majority of them is done as hell now, it's basically one entity that's even ruling their ass. You see what I'm saying? They just as stupid as the devil too. We're talking about this force. What they're doing is, if they keep you looking to the future, that's a science. You understand what I'm saying? If they keep you looking to the future, that's a science in which you'll wake up and it'll be the future. You understand? You'll wonder, how the hell I got in this mess? Just like they did in the doggone 70s. How did I get it? Because they kept you looking to the future. And the future is now, because there's no such thing as space and time. You get this? You see what I'm saying? The government came out a couple months ago and said that the males have less heart attacks if they give blood. It says the males that don't give blood have more heart attacks. Now we know that they want the blood because they don't need nothing but a piece of your hair and your blood to make a duplicate of you. Yes. Which we're going to get into tonight, because that's one of the main key things that I basically came for, to go into the history of this. The history of this, and go into the history of this, and we got some actual documentation to deal with that. But they want you to give blood. So they can drink it too. So they can drink it. That's the whole thing with the vampirism. But one thing now is also the duplicates. That's one of the main things is the actual duplicates and all. So there's a movie coming out about the genetic engineering called Gattaca. Yeah. Gattaca. It'll be out in the next couple of weeks. Gattaca. And that particular movie is going to deal with a whole lot of things at this particular time. And for the other people that saw the movie, the Clone that came on last Sunday, we're going to deal with that also too. But I'm deal with that also too. And basically, how you can tell whether you are not one or not is basically if you accept this knowledge at this time. Because if you are one, you cannot accept the knowledge at this particular time. You automatically reject it. That's the key. So I'm quite sure everybody up here is cool and all. Because you even got a down. If you got a thirst on that, we're going to get into that particular part. Because that's one thing, you cannot accept any type of consciousness now. If they program you, we're going to get into that particular science right now. Let's deal with some other things at this particular time. Okay. What is happening now is, as you know, that based on the Europeans, and it's interesting because I got this particular piece. Go and get, anytime you deal with some stuff, deal with the Discovery Channel. The Discovery Channel will come on and they talk in double code. They talk to the people that's supposed to know what time it is. They'll say one thing. And for the other people that's done this, you'll just believe what they want to say. So they'll come on and they'll say, they have this whole thing now, they fight for these mummies. They fight for these mummies. And they're fighting for these particular mummies is because the simple fact is, they have now have the technology and they brought some pharaohs back to try to get information on how to save them. But unfortunately, a pharaoh in ancient Kemet was not a high priest. And most high priests never mummified themselves. So therefore, a pharaoh, although he was the raw symbol for everybody to understand, he was not the actual high priest. And it's interesting because in 94, I was in Barnes bookstore and I got a whole, and I ran up on a book on the cloning of the pharaohs. And I think I was a couple of dollars short, and I said, well, I'm going to go and get some money when the store was about to close. And I hid the book. When I came back the next day, it was gone. And I thought that somebody bought it, but what happened was they was actually watching me in the actual store. And they came and got that book, and it was talking about how they actually cloned Ramesses. You see what I'm saying? And got some of his memory. And so they're dealing with that particular part. But it's interesting because we know, like I said, that Barnes and Nobles now has come into Atlanta, and they're doing this all over. They're now coming in Barnes and Nobles and Barnes Bookstore. Those are the ones. They'll come in, and they are now running other small bookstores out. So a small bookstore that can come in and deal with occult books or particular books, they will run them out. And they'll say, well, you can come here to Barnes and we have what is called an unlimited ordering list. So basically, they want to track the amount of consciousness or the amount of stuff now that is coming out to the public. Go and see the movie Conspiracy Theory on how they caught Mel Gibson when he went to doggone Barnes and Noble. And the reason why I know they had a metaphysical bookstore by the name of Avalon that had everything in Atlanta. Now I know the white boy Charles, and I know he said, well, I'm closing now because Barnes and Noble has got the business. I said, damn, Charles. I said, all you got to do is print some damn flyers out and plaster Atlanta with some flyers. I said, it might cost you $5, man, and you can get all these white people to come up in here because the white people buy the stuff. This is a white boy I'm talking to. I say, so, but he was like, no, I'm closing down. And basically what it was is I think they stepped to Charles and said, your ass is out of business. Because they had another white boy named Larry up in there, and Larry knew everything. Larry knew everything. Bojan, Yoruba, everything. And Larry went crazy in 94. He ended up in the crazy house. So Charles kept the business, and then they stepped to Charles, and I think they told Charles, look, you got to get out of here. And I think the same thing happened with Samuel Wiser in New York. But all of a sudden, they just went out of business. Now everybody knows you go to New York, you go to Samuel Wiser, because that's the oldest occult bookstore in the country. And in 95, it just went out of business. And now, you know, they got Barnes and Nobles on every corner. So what they're doing is they want to track this particular information, and people, the government want to see who's actually studying. They're not necessarily interested in what you're actually ordering, but they want to have a monitor what type of information, how much this occult knowledge is having an effect on the whole country. You see what I'm saying? On the whole country. And not just for black people, but for white people, because they understood that their particular children tried to get away from their ass with that hippie shit. You see? And they like to lost the country on with their own white people. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, They are interested in everybody at this particular time. You see, so that's very key that you understand that in this particular time. So you know also that during the Victorian times, the 1900s, you had a whole resurgence of white people eating mummies. It's called mumia. The word mummy comes from a black substance called mumia, and from that they got the word mummy. They got the word mummy. And so therefore, they have a whole, and that's all a part of the whole vampirism type thing that's been going down too. The mummy eating and all of that type thing. But going back to the actual Discovery Channel, they were talking about trying to get the DNA from the pharaohs, and they were trying to find out whether the pharaohs at a certain part of Egypt were actually what race they were. So when they got there and all, they was lying saying, they didn't say it was black and all, but they looked in this particular mummy's skull because the mummies didn't have brains in them because they take the brains out. And they said there's a black resin up in here. And right there that meant it was melon. So they were saying different things on the actual show. Enough is enough. You see what I'm saying? You know. So they put out the movie Enemy of the State. And they literally gave you the black guy, Will Smith. But for the mere fact that they would put out a movie called Enemy of the State and put a black man as the actual person that they're talking about, they're literally telling you that you are the enemy of the state. This is the way they literally tell you. This is the code word for most people that understand what's going on. As well as the movie literally telling you all the stuff that was actually going down. How many people saw the movie?
Good movie.
Literally telling you all the stuff that's going down. And basically, this guy literally was a lawyer, and the next day, like his wife told him, he ended up with nothing. You see. So basically, you're gonna have to literally start checking out these movies, not for the simple fact based on entertainment, because that's where they're putting it all now. This is their new mythology. This is their new way of literally explaining to the world on what's actually going down. You see what I'm saying? So that's very interesting. That's very interesting that they would have this particular movie, Enemy of the State. You see what I'm saying? And literally would literally give you this particular put a black man up there and telling you what time it is. You see. So this is very key that you understand this particular time. Now, remember I told you about the coffee ritual. You're going to recap on some things about the coffee ritual. People messing with you. You put the coffee in the brown bottle. You probably heard me talk about that before. Get your brown bottle, put some liquid coffee in the brown beer bottle or whatever, root beer bottle, and write the person's name on a brown piece of paper bag and put that name in the coffee bottle, and that person won't mess with you no more. Well, if that person just so happened to be black, it probably won't mess with you. But what happened was it was interesting because I was up in Milwaukee speaking. I went up to Milwaukee in January and was speaking up there. And it was a young brother, like in his early 20s, like 21. And this brother said, you know, he had this old cracker boss fucking with him. And he said he put that name in the brown bottle, and the next day that cracker had a heart attack. You see. So I'm just telling you, this is some stuff that actually worked. One guy had some guy messing with him, and he just went in and made up his own ritual. Because remember now, the most powerful ritual is the one that you make up yourself, because that's your own higher self telling you what time it is. And you're just thinking it's your own thoughts, but in actuality, if you couldn't conceive it if it wasn't coming from some higher source, mainly your inner self. So this other guy made up this ritual, and just made up one. Just went in and made up one because there was some cracker messing with him, and his cracker came down with multiple cancer, which means he had cancer spread throughout the whole body. And basically what it did, it didn't literally invent no cancer or put the cancer on him. It's just that the cracker had cancer. It just speeded up the process. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, I know that's quite hard for some of you people, but then again, on the other hand, we talk about spiritual warfare, so therefore, you know, this is some things that you need to be doing, and basically that doesn't necessarily mean that you can just use these. You can make up your own stuff. And on the other hand, this also needs to happen for some of these niggas out here too. Because I got some other information I'm going to get into tonight and all, and basically I never really said anything. I have been knowing about this since '95. but I didn't really say too much about it until I wanted to find some documentation on it. And I got the documentation in this typebook I put up and all, based on some stuff. And I'll get back into that also too, based on, it's something that Dr. York said years ago, but then again, you can't never really take anything that he says. It's a simple fact that he don't never tell you where he gets shit from. He got out 1,000 books and ain't got nobody else's name on them but his, and don't never tell you where he get nothing from. You see what I'm saying? So you know, but he did put out something called the Black Devils, and he was alluding to something. You see what I'm saying? It's just that he could have literally, it could have been worse something if he literally could have explained his sources. So therefore, you can't really take anything he says as gospel or really. Because the simple fact that he never tells you, because he wants people to believe that he's the author of all knowledge. But on the other hand, this particular information here, and it makes a lot of sense too, based on some black people that just won't do right. And we used to doggone say that it was based on black inferiority, slave mentality. But then again, on the other hand, these people can think in a certain way to get anything they want done. They can get it done. It's just when it comes to black people, they lose it. That's some bullshit. You literally got an evil aspect that's going on, and we're going to get into that particular part too, based on some stuff called counterfeit spirits. But based on the timeline when these so-called counterfeit spirits, I misconstrued them as white people at first. But based on the timeline with the so-called counterfeit spirits, now this is a whole other thing based on other than the mutant white person. And some stuff coming out of narcissism, the timeline when these counterfeit spirits was created was long before white people even got on the planet. So who the hell were they talking about? They were talking about a doggone messed up strand of black people. You see what I'm saying? That basically has been plaguing you all your life also too. And it's been a doggone confusion because we look and we say, well, you know, we can't really say that about black people, you know. But then again, over and over and over again, this shit is happening. Now another thing too, and I must go ahead and just break just bust this thing wide open, because it's time out for bullshit. So we ain't doggone holding nobody's hand. So I got it. So we were in solidarity with our brothers and sisters from the continent, because we were all trying to get back into and relink to some Afrocentric and African-centered type of consciousness. But this is hindsight, is doggone 2020. Now this is what? 10, 13 years after the so-called inception of the Afrocentric world, and we come to find out that the least motherfucker that wanted to do anything as far as us finding ourselves, tracing ourselves back to Africa and in unison with them, the least person that wanted anything to do with that